Drum King.
All right, it's a wonderful Thursday. My name is Kwame Ofe. Welcome to Kwame Ofe Exclusive. All right, so the whole week has been so active with a lot of news, but I can say that Camala Harris, who happens to be the Vice President of the United States of America, has been trending a lot, frankly speaking. She has been trending so much. She had an interaction with Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. There was a foreign journalist who asked a question about LGBT. With the issue of LGBT, I don't know, we've gotten to a point where you have to actually tread cautiously. Why? Because people feel that it's a global village. And then anybody who wants to travel outside the country is just being careful, because if you're being digged out on social media and then you say anything around LGBT and it doesn't seem to be in favor of those who are pushing for it, you might have problem with your visa. So when you see some MPs who are kind of silent, they are silent for a purpose and they know what they're doing. It has become a topic which I know from the Ghanaian culture perspective, it shouldn't be difficult. It should be straightforward. Like when you look at what President did in answering the question where he said that it is a parliament and he has trust in parliament that you're going to do a good job, and then after parliament is done with that work, he's going to ascend it or he's going to sign it, and then it finally becomes a law, and then he's going to see what to do. And there you could see the reply from Haruna Idrisu making it clear to the president of Ghana, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, that in terms of lawmaking, it is within his remit or jurisdiction. So in terms of giving that assurance to the Vice President of the United States of America, he has to be careful with what he said, actually. And then Babin was quite clear and emphatic that he was going to pass the law. So but in the mind of Babin, he wasn't gambling with the issue. Not at all. Babin was that straightforward. Like, he is going to make sure a law is passed against LGBT. Babin equally said that when Babin actually applauded the Pope for also directing the fathers not to bless LGBT marriages. So with that statement, it equally means that Babin is fully against LGBT, and that he is ready as a Speaker of Parliament to facilitate and ensure that that law is passed. He also urged and encouraged the members of the committee that nobody should be scared, or there shouldn't be any interference, or there's not going to be any interference that's going to make anybody scared of coming out to vote when the time comes. So when you look at how President diplomatically was dealing with the issue, and when you look at how Babin responded, one, it means Babin wasn't happy with what the president said, and then he made reference to what the president said and made it quite clear that president should be careful with what he was saying. Very clear. Now, then again, you could clearly also see that President is treading cautiously because, one, we're looking for $3 billion IMF deal, for which, as I speak, there are 3 or 4 major tax components lying at Parliament to be passed, including the Excise Duty Amendment Bill, the Income Tax Amendment Bill, the Sustainability whatever bill. I mean, about four of them. We are supposed to pass this tax component, and after that, we'll be going for the IMF deal. But the truth of the matter is, in as much as that is pending at Parliament, it looks like we want some sort of favor from the Westerners, which equally controls the IMF. Of course, they have the largest share in it. So, President, knowing that he is in dire need of that amount of money, the $3 billion US, you could see that President is treading cautiously in a manner that he wouldn't want to make mistake and then lose that money. So you could see that in our own way, the little we can do to ensure that the board accept all our arrangements, whatever we've done internally, and enable us to get that $3 billion US money to support our economy, President is trying to tread cautiously. But my question that I want you to answer, if you're watching me on social media or if you're on my YouTube pages, do you think that it is something that the president will have to be straight with it and say it as the nation want him to say? Of course, remember the last census put Ghana's Christian population somewhere around 70, the Muslims somewhere around 20, and the rest. So you could clearly see that in terms of religion-wise, we've seen Christian leaders saying they don't want it. We've seen Muslim leaders saying we don't want it. And we also know that our traditionalists equally say they don't want it. So when you come to that perspective in terms of religion, the whole LGBT group might lose. So now the onus now lies on Parliament. And when you're also looking at the a religious checks on the religious background of these parliamentarians unless different religious label and then what they believe in. When you also look at that, you will also say that it will be very difficult for them to resist this law. So now, as a president of the nation who got the platform to tell the world Ghana's position, once again, don't forget that in one of President's interview, President made it quite clear that if it gets to a time where they push enough, he said that at a point in time, the activism for LGBT is not enough. People are not calling for it in the nation. So when it gets to that point where people call for it, then there can be that change. So as we speak, the signal that's sent to all the activists around LGBTs probably would have to push further, as the president of Ghana has said it. Now, what it is when Madam Harris came, President wasn't emphatic. President laid the rest of the responsibility on Parliament, as in Parliament is passing a bill. That bill is a private sponsored bill and it's not a government initiative. And then he believed that the parliamentarians are going to do a good job. What does that good job mean? Well, he believes that the parliamentarians understand human rights and they are definitely going to do a good job. What does that mean? I want you to listen to some of the different aspects of this whole issues that are brought out and then make your own conclusion out of it. President being diplomatic with IMF deal pending, Barbin going straight forward with what Parliament wants to do and the position of President. Can we say, even if Parliament passed the bill, will Nanado sign or will Nanado not sign? That's also another question. But do you think Nanado will sign or he will not sign? That is something we can all be deliberating on. Well, I tried to open up the issue for all of us to just have an understanding of what is happening and then how we are handling the issues. Of course, don't forget that places like Uganda have actually passed the law against LGBT, and then the international community is coming against Uganda. Definitely they're going to face the so-called sanction. Of course, if you're a country and you're not independent, these things becomes easy for them, especially with regards to sanction. It pinches and it hits you so hard when you are not independent. So the letter that I will say is, any country who wants to be master of its own destiny, for example, like Ghana, if you want to decide on the issue of LGBT,